Hi everyone, I'm Jane at Rockin' Worms. Thanks for joining me today. There's a lot of interest right now on starting worm bins because it's spring in a lot of parts of the world right now and people are thinking about their gardens. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to share with you how I started my worm bin journey about, a year and a half ago. All right, what I did is I kept my worms in a 5-gallon bucket to start off with. And I did this for approximately 9 months. And I grew a handful of worms into over 1,300 worms. Okay, that's about 1.25 pounds. Okay, so keeping your worms in a bucket works. But I also developed at the same time a unique method of keeping worms in the bucket, and that's what I want to share with you today. So basically, keeping worms in a bucket has a lot of benefits over the other alternative ways of keeping worms, which is mainly a worm bag, worm trays, or a worm tower. So when I started out, I knew nothing, and I did searching, and that's what I found out. You have the two ways, the worm bag, worm tower, worm trays, or basically a 5-gallon bucket. But what I realized is that there's pros and cons to both methods, and I, of course, wanted to get all the pros and eliminate or reduce some of the cons. So let's just talk about what the pros and cons are first, because that drives your, choice system on what you do. And I also want to mention right at the beginning, if you're an advanced worm farmer and you're thinking, I don't care about this system, I'm beyond that, I'm using bins now like I've moved to, I would say hold on, because this modified bucket system has benefits for the advanced wormer as well. In fact, I myself am starting to gear up to use this system again, because I am realizing that the benefits of this modified bucket system that I developed is beneficial to not only the new wormer, but the advanced wormer too as well. So stick around and see how this can benefit you. Okay, so let's get started. The pros and cons. So worm bags, worm trays, worm towers work great in a lot of ways, but they're pricey. And for the new person coming into the worm world, dropping a couple $100 on these kind of systems can be prohibitive. And I personally didn't want to spend that kind of money on something I wasn't sure I was going to enjoy and stick with. So that was a problem. Then I looked at the 5-gallon worm buckets because, let's face it, they're inexpensive, they're easily accessible, and they apparently work. Lots of people do them. But the cons of a bucket system is it's all plastic, they don't have the holes. We'll talk about drilling holes. They're all plastics. They don't have the breathability that the bag systems have. They're not as convenient to work in, because there's a limited surface area. They're deep. They're not as convenient to work in as, say, the tray systems are. So I wanted to take some of the benefits of the trays and the bags and put them into the bucket system. And that's what I figured out how to do. So let's talk about that. What you need is a 5-gallon bucket with holes in it. You need a reusable shopping bag, which is breathable. You can see that it has holes in it that allows water to come out, and also for the exchange of air, okay? The next material you need is a couple of just standard medium-sized binder clips, office supply kind of thing. And then the ability to make the holes in your 5-gallon bucket. So either a standard drill bit, a paddle drill bit is fine. And then of course the drill itself. Now, if you don't have a drill or the bits, you know, talk to your friends, talk to your families, talk to your building super and see if they have a drill and bits that you can borrow for like 10 minutes, okay? You don't have to buy everything new. Okay, let's start to put this together. So you have the bucket and you drill the holes. Now you want some holes at the top, in the middle, and toward the bottom. So again, you get some airflow circulation going. I like to use a combination of the smaller holes and the bigger holes. I like the bigger holes because especially toward the bottom, let me show you one that's toward the bottom, you can see inside and see if there's any accumulation of water or leachate, which would, you know, need to be removed. You can see what's going on. If you just have small holes, you know, you can always check and see if there's moisture by, you know, swishing it. You can hear it. But, you know, use what you got as far as making holes, okay? But you do want holes. Now, the next thing is you have your reusable shopping bag. And conveniently, most of them fit. Both, this is from a local grocery store, but also Walmart. I've used Walmart bags. They fit really, really nice into a 5-gallon bucket. It's like it was like intentionally done. I don't know. But so the bag just fits in, right? And you think, oh, that's great. What do I need the binder clips for? Well, I'll show you. Here's the binder clips. The reason you need binder clips is as you put in bedding material in your worms, it starts to get heavy, especially after you start, you know, adding moisture and food. It gets heavy. And if you don't have something to hold the bag onto the lip of the bucket, it just basically, you know, comes down, it snags on the end, on the edge rather, and then it just ends up all in here and it's kind of a mess. Also, if you have a small amount of worms with a small amount of bedding, it's easier for you to see what's going on if you have the bag adjusted at a good working height for you with the amount of bedding and worms you have. And this is where the clips come in, because you simply put the clips on the edge to hold the bag at the height you need it to be. So in the beginning, when I had my handful of worms and I lost them in the bottom of a 5-gallon bucket, and I started going, this isn't working for me, and I went to this bag system, I put the bag very close to the top of the bin, because I only had like a gallon of bedding in with my handful of worms, and clipped it. And I could work with my worms, I could see what was going in. And then as my worm colony grew, I put in more bedding, and I just deepened the bag to the appropriate level, reclipped, and I was all set. And again, I did this for 9 months and it worked a charm. Now, one of the other benefits of having a bag with the clips on it is I can remove the whole bag, worms and bedding, completely. Obviously, imagine that there's worms and bedding in here. I can just pick it up and move it en masse to a bin and dump it and start working on sorting or sifting or whatever I needed to do with my worms. When I'm done with that process, I can just, you know, put it all back in the bag, carry it back over the bin, and, you know, set it up again. No fuss, no muss. Really super easy. Now, for you more advanced worm farmers, if space is becoming a consideration for you, you can keep about 4,000 worms comfortably in this system. And when you want to stack the bins or stack the buckets because you have, you know, a lot of worms and not a lot of space, all you do is you unclip the bag, you put it down, tuck it in, put your lid on. If you don't have a lid, you know, use a piece of wood to cover it. Piece of, I don't know, plastic from another bin or something. You put it on, and you can now stack more buckets up to whatever height you're comfortable with. Personally, I wouldn't go more than 3 because I'll knock them over. But even if you knock them over, by having a lid that snaps on, because you put the edge of the bag inside, if this is snapped on and it tips over, you know, your mess remains in the bucket because your bedding and worms are still inside that bag, right, containing them. So it's a really handy system. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set this up, and I'm going to use this system as a cocoon hatching nursery. Okay, so I'm kind of guessing on how deep this is going to be. Let me put this on. And you know what? I like to use gloves, so I'm going to put some gloves on here. Just give me a second. Where's the thumb? Here it is. Okay. All right, ta-da. Okay, so this is one of my cocoon bins. This is actually the cocoon bin I had from my breeder reset last weekend, okay? I took 3 breeder bins, I sifted out the castings, and I put the resulting cocoons into this bin. Look at all these cocoons. These are all the cocoons all the way through. Look at this. Isn't that fantastic? From 3 breeder bins. So I'm going to move these cocoons into this worm bucket. What am I calling it? The worm bag in a 5-gallon bucket. Okay. And I'm just going to scoop them up gently because I do have wisps in here. And I'm going to pull them over and I'm going to put them in the bag. Let me move this over here. Let me move this way. This is probably easier. Okay. And I'm just going to put them in. Now, they're going to be fine in here. And for you advanced wormers in particular, one of the reasons why it's nice to use this setup for cocoon hatching is because with your cocoons, you're not doing a lot with them, right? You're not feeding them. You're just maintaining moisture. I do put in some worms to keep the cocoons company, but there's plenty of food in this. So I'm not going to do the whole bin because you get the idea. And the benefit for me is I get this bin back and I can use this now to set up a new breeder bin. Okay, because I don't, at this point, want to use a bag system like this for my breeders because I'm not comfortable yet on how it's going to work, but I think there is potential there because, again, breeders, you don't do a lot of fussing with. So this could also be a really great setup for breeders. I'm just not quite done testing that, so I don't want to, you know, advocate that as a way to do breeders, but I think I will be very shortly talking to you guys about using this kind of system again for breeders. And then using the bins perhaps more for grow out worm situations where I'm going in more frequently to feed, I'm going in more frequently to sift, okay? So that is the direction I'm moving in. So heads up on that. All right, so let me just check my notes here, make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover, blah, blah, blah. I talked about the scalability, the binder clips. All right, I think that is it. So really, a very simple system, very cost effective, has the benefits of the worm bags, the worm trays, the worm towers, but also has the benefits of using a 5-gallon bucket. So best of both worlds. Give it a try. Let me know how it works for you. Post it down in the comments. I'm eager to hear about it. And otherwise, I am yours in the dirt, Jane.